Hey everyone, it's your brother Rev Skip here, and I am so grateful and so excited to be here with you. We're celebrating Black History Month, but as I say, it's History Month, and we're focusing on the African American and the African diaspora and how the history is so rich and so filled with spiritual leadership and the leadership to change this planet. I'm going to focus in on one of my heroes, one of the people that have shifted the way I see myself in God, and that is George Washington Carver. And George Washington Carver for me is a incredible New Thought leader. And I read this book. It is called The Man Who Talks to Flowers, and it's written by Glenn Clark. And when I was in practitioner training and in ministerial school, I got a chance to write a paper about George Washington Carver. The reason why I'm choosing to talk about this great man is because of the fact that I love Mother Nature. I love the energy of Gaia. I love being in nature. And as Patrice Sommet said so many times, we are not just living with nature, we are nature itself. So I love getting out into the garden. I love walking. I love touching the fields. And whenever I get into my garden or whenever I get into nature, I am channeling George Washington Carver. Let me give you a little bit of information about Brother George Washington Carver and the incredible things that he did and to help to change the planet. He was born a slave. He was born into slavery, and they're not really sure of his date of birth, but we know it was around 1864, 1865. And he was born into slavery in Missouri. And part of the enslavement of ancestors were the freedom. And his journey to freedom was a powerful one. And as he began to grow and began to educate himself, he taught himself about flowers. He taught himself about the soil. He taught himself about the trees. And one of his famous quotes is, if you love something, it will give you the mystery of the world. So his diving deep into the soil as a kid, he learned very much of how much he loved nature. So he went on to be an education advocate. He went on to receive a degree from Iowa State University. He was the first African American to receive a degree in agriculture. So I think that's very, very powerful. And then he went on to teach at Tennessee State or Tennessee University, or excuse me, Tuskegee Institute. Excuse me. Carver actually joined the faculty and he taught, and he was the head of the agricultural department. So this is what he brings to us as farmers and people who are farmers today. He came up with the crop diversification. See, in Alabama and in the South, they were planting the same crops over and over and over again, and the crops stopped growing. And he was the one that said, well, we have to change and move from just planting cotton to planting something else. And he invited people to plant peas and to plant greens and to plant peanuts. And from there, he began to have innovation around the peanut. So the peanut was actually a very dormant kind of thing we just ate. And George Washington Carver found out 300 different ways to use the peanuts, from cosmetics to medicine to forms of eating. He was open to these new ideas of how to use something that was looked at as being very minute. He also did the same thing with sweet potatoes and yams. He found out the very innovative ways of using something that was tossed aside or just used for eating. He went on to teach about enrichment of the soil, which he actually had conversation with Gandhi about enriching the soil in India. So how you take care of the soil is how the plant is going to grow. Part of that for me is like, how do we take care of our consciousness? How do we take care of our mind? Because our mind is the soil. And when we plant the seeds of new thought into our mind, are we cultivating it? Are we feeding it? Are we giving it water? Are we taking care of and watching it grow? Part of this experience for me is to continue to tap into nature, continue to love where we live and to take care of it, to cultivate it, and to be inspired by it. He went on to be a public education researcher. He reached out to many, many, many schools in the South on how to educate people of color and who that pass on to everyone. He started it was a traveling bus that went to different farms to teach farmers how to cultivate their soil. So this is why George Washington Carver is my hero. He helped to change the planet. So celebrate this beautiful time that we get to celebrate the history of African Americans and the African diaspora. Peace and blessing, y'all, and we'll talk soon.